Well, hey guys, welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. We are back for another Wednesday special after last week delivered just a fantastic Mandalorian episode and a fantastic Bad Batch episode. It was going to be a hard week to live up to. And ultimately, we got something very different today from both shows, really. And we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian episode 3, season 3, The Convert. Now, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it, come back and check it out. It's our longest episode so far at 58 minutes, which I really liked. Really love the longer length. Longer does not always equal better, but I've noticed in Mandalorian, some episodes that are short in that 30-minute range can feel a little bit rushed, like the pacing was just hurried and scrambled. And so I do like time for plot to breathe, and I feel like this episode had plenty of time. But again, spoilers ahead. If you want my spoiler-free thoughts, I thought this was a really good episode, in a very different way. That's my tease. I'm not gonna say any more. Go check it out. It's a B+. It's an A-. I really liked it. Now, to talk about the Convert, I've seen a lot of people calling this the Andor episode in the Book of Boba Fett, and I totally get why. Right? We are on Coruscant again. We are seeing something very fascinating, something I've never really researched or experienced in Star Wars lore, which is the transition period for those who were in the Empire who were misplaced when the New Republic took over. And we see this amnesty program where these folks are coming out of the imperial life and they're being transitioned over. So they're going through counseling and they're being put in housing and work conditions. And it actually seems like a pretty sweet gig. They got some really nice houses set up and they get this, kind of jobs to do to fill their time. And this was really fascinating. I think especially you have Andor and the Bad Batch, which are showing you the transition from the Republic to the Empire. And now in Mandalorian, we're seeing the reverse, which is the fall of the Empire. And now we have the New Republic's angle on things, which is just fascinating. I love how much we're getting to see here. I had this thought as I was watching today's episode, not to take us too off track. Star Wars is better for Mandalorian existing, meaning, there's so much talk all the time about Disney Star Wars, and there's too much Star Wars fatigue. There's rumors viewership for Mandalorian season 3 is lower than expected. Look, at the end of the day, to me, I think one thing is simple. I can judge a Star Wars show by whether I think the whole universe was enhanced by it being there. Mandalorian, Andor, I think the answer is yes in both cases. And that's how I felt watching this, seeing this interesting insight to what happened post-Empire, to see what the other planets in the galaxy, what other races we're dealing with at this time. I think it's just been so insightful. And so this episode focuses heavily on some of the ex-forces of Moff Gideon, who are, working on the cloning program, and they want to help the Empire. We get an amazing callback to Revenge of the Sith. We have the famous theater, right? The famous, have you ever heard the legend of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Love the callback. Looked fantastic. Looked just like we left it, which was great. But this time we have a talk about cloning and how the New Republic has outlawed cloning, But we still have our ambitious scientist here who wants to continue his work for the good of the Republic. And we see it ends up kind of being a darker turn where he apparently has a fellow agent. We've seen her on Moff Gideon's ship. And, the one thing we knew right off the bat is she was trying to use him. My expectation was she was going to try to get him to restart his cloning work so she could somehow, reunite with Moff at some point and they'd figure it out. But in a really weird twist, she gets the equipment, or at least weird to me. I didn't see this coming. She actually is working for the amnesty program as an undercover agent. So she helps get the equipment, keeps it for herself, and then just mind flays the guy, just completely mind wipes him. And so she obviously wants her identity protected. That's how I read it. I think she wanted whatever he was working on to not leak out, and that's why she wiped his mind. And I can't think of anything else at this point of why she would have done that. Unless she really has become so zealous for the New Republic that she's mind-wiping anyone who could deter their plans. But that is not my belief. But in between that storyline where we see Coruscant, which, by the way, there's some threads online I can link below about all the Ralph McQuarrie artwork that inspired this episode, and it is fantastic. So we got to see a lot of Coruscant. It was really great to see a much more hopeful Coruscant than we saw in Andor, which is one big difference. But then, at the beginning and the end of the episode, we get some heavy Mando and Bo-Katan kind of action. We start off with a space battle. We get some TIE interceptors in a nice little chase scene, which I thought was really fun. Again, I love seeing the N1 Starfighter. It looks so good in action. Looked phenomenal. And then in this really humorous twist at the end, we return. So episode starts off, plane chase. We go to Coruscant, experience this story of the amnesty program. And then we go back to Mando as he returns to say, hey, I bathed in the waters of Mandalore and I brought proof. And he's forgiven. They're like, hey, you're Mandalorian again. Welcome back. And in an accident, Bo-Katan has actually been forgiven as well. She followed the covenant. She put her mask on, went in the water, came up, hasn't taken her mask off. She has mistakenly, accidentally, apparently rejoined. She's a convert, hence the name Convert. And what they're doing here with Bo-Katan seems like we're setting her up for leadership. She sees the mythosaur, which confirmed Din Djarin did not in this episode. He just fell. She now is part of this old religion, which could help unite some of these old holdouts. And she might be having more reverence for her culture. She still seems she's putting that off right now. But the fact that she saw the mythosaur, the fact that she mistakenly converted, leads me to believe they are setting her up to become the ruler of Mandalore. And her and Din are flirting a little bit. I don't know if we're going to have like a power couple move here. I'd like it. I'm here for it. But that was on the finale of the episode. I gotta tell you guys, I liked it. 58 minutes. I feel like a lot happened. Different pace, different tone of this episode in a good way for me. Now, again, people compared it to Andor. I think the storytelling in Andor was certainly, I think, a little better at the tension and a little bit better at the suspense. This episode was not quite as effective, but I still thought it was really refreshing to see something like this in the Mandoverse. The Mandoverse. So I'm a huge fan of it. So that's my overall impressions of the episode. I think this is a good step for the show to take. Instead of an episode where we might have seen in season 1, season 2, where there's very much a fetch quest feeling, where we go do some pointless side quest and move on. This one felt a little bit deeper, not just because it seems to be setting up maybe villain returns, possible villain arcs later in the season, but because it gave us some real insight into the New Republic. Seeing the banners with the New Republic logo on it was kind of surreal. You know, like you're on Coruscant with the blue New Republic banners hanging. Like, this is an awesome time in the galaxy. And we haven't really been able to see this on the screen before, right? Because we just hop in with a New Order when the sequel trilogy emerged. So, again, I really enjoy how this show makes me feel from an energy perspective. Meaning, it re-energizes my love for the franchise. It gets me excited thinking of stories, thinking of the history of Mandalore, history of Coruscant. There's just so much in there that just makes that inner fan in me just smile, and I can't help but enjoy it. Which might be why I'm maybe not as critical as these shows some others might be. I just have a good time watching it. That makes me happy. And as a Star Wars fan, ultimately, I'm a fan. And, you know, whether these episodes are perfect or not, I might not be, calling out all the flaws, but I can't help but just tell you guys how I'm feeling, which is enjoying the product, enjoying my time in the universe. And I guess that's all I can ask for. So I was satisfied with today's episode. Now, very curious where we go next. I very much like the tone we've set with this season. I think episode 1 was far and away the weakest episode. I think 2 and 3 have been steps up. So for me, we're trending upwards, and I hope it continues that momentum going forward. But what did you guys think? Let me know down below. I go offline before I watch the episode so I don't get things spoiled for me. So for all I know, the internet hated this episode, and I'm the only one who liked it. Again, I just saw in my Twitter feed when I was prepping the camera, people calling it the Andor episode, but I don't know. I don't know if anyone liked it, but I did. So I can't wait for you guys to tell me down below. Thank you guys for being here. Looking forward to more Star Wars as we head towards Jedi Survivor. We head towards May the 4th, Star Wars Celebration. It's going to be an awesome year. Thanks so much, guys. See you again very soon.